So there's several reasons why this family might be green. The first thing that I would check is invisibility graphics, the model categories tab. So I'm pretty sure this is a mechanic or electrical equipment family. Yep. So under electrical equipment, there are no overrides for colors. If there was a subcategory in the family, if the geometry in the family was placed on a subcategory, the subcategory might be turned green. Actually, it looks like that's not even possible here. So there's no overrides in the model categories tab. The second thing I would check is filters. There are no filters being applied to it. We can talk about filters later if you want. So nothing there. Then I would check object styles. Under Manage tab, object styles, and electrical equipment. So that's probably it. So these are subcategories under electrical equipment, and there's two subcategories. Both of them are green. I guess we can just and hit apply. That was the one.
Oh, easy that is. Oh.
So that was under manage, right?
Under Manage Object Styles. So Manage Object Styles. This is where you set. This is where you set the color and the line weight of all of your different family categories.
As long as you're there, Kurt, say if I want to put the communication and blue or something, that's where you set your communication color in blue. Everything will show, all the components of COM will show blue.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So what's the difference between that color and the color that we just were in the EV? That's where.
Oh, sure. So this sets kind of your default, your master colors
Gotcha.
for everything. And under Visibility Graphics, these are your settings just for this view.
So that will override what you do there?
Exactly. So we're looking at just the Visibility Graphics settings for E9, first floor plan,
Gotcha.
LV systems. And so if you change something here, you're basically, that's what that button says, override. You're going to override the default settings.
So we could change them here if we want to.
Yep.
Okay, that's
so that's why I checked here as well.
It'd just be for that view, so you have to
Yep.
change it in every view, or yeah, doing it in the manage tab is a lot more cool.
Right. If you want all of these to be green every time, then you'd want to do it in object styles.
And from there is the line weight. So if you were to print in grayscale or black and white, that line weight would print thicker and thinner. Is that right here in object styles?
Yeah, object styles is where you set your default line weight as well. Am I answering your question?
Yep.
Yeah. So that's projection. It's kind of a funny name, but that's what it is.
Is this typical what you guys do? Like, look at the electrical fixtures 5. Is that typical color that you do for weight or different?
Are you guys just using out of the box line weight settings? So your line weights are under Manage Additional Styles, line weights, and it looks these are probably out of the box settings. This whole business of having different line weights for different scales is, I think, kind of more of an architectural thing. At Michelle Cooley, we just have one, but that's another story, I guess. So looking at, you got out of the box line weights, object styles. Yeah, 4s and 3s and 5s. Yeah, that's probably kind of where you want to be. 5s might be a little bit thick, but yeah, that's probably all right.
Well, it kind of depends on the printer and stuff too. Right?
Yeah.
When we got a new printer, I don't know, a year ago, and we went through rounds and rounds of honing those line weights and things to the new printer because they just look different.
Yeah, they look. Yeah.
It all kind of depends on what you got.
Everybody get that one, guys? See how easy that. I'm sorry about.
So then the other thing, I don't know, maybe you guys knew this already, but so when you print, if you wanted that to just to stay green, but you wanted it to be able to plot black, when you go to print under setup, right here, colors, and you can print color if you have a color printer, grayscale or black lines. It looks like it was set to color, so it's going to print color. And if you don't have color printer, then it'll just shade it as if it sees a green, it's going to be less than black.
What I clicked was that replace half tone with thin lines. That typically creates unnecessary damage.
All right. Yeah.
Like it solves one problem, it creates another one.
Yeah.
And then it takes anything else that's half tone like background, and it makes them the same language.
Yeah.
And do we do black and white or grayscale?
We do black and white, black lines. Yeah. Oh, where's that setting to have everything be? Oh, right here. Yeah, replace halftones with thin lines. Yep. Haven't seen that though. But at the place I used to work at KFI. We did things at grayscale, and there's advantages to each way. Just kind of a matter of preference. Did you want to actually mess around in a family? Do any kind of?
Let's do that one, the dimension, the physical dimension of the family.
Is there one that you guys specifically want to modify? So you can get like specific, like do you have that speaker, the
Yeah.
whole family or something like that?
There's the power pole that we inserted. I thought I did it. Load family. Go to the network. I think this is my. Let me just load that one. Oops, no, back one here, Revit. And we have Revit Industrial. We have electrical component. This was custom designed by you guys a year or so ago. Electrical component, and there's what was it? Okay, bus stop disconnect meter, panel board. I can't remember where the. Okay, these are just the power switches, transfer, PDUs. Okay, there was a power pole. I can't remember where it was labeled here. General disconnect switches, maybe here. Anybody remember, guys, the power pole that we dropped? What was? Where did we load it from? A bus stop, PDU, UPS cabinet. Just these are custom.
I think at one point we shared a handful of families.
Yeah.
I think it was back in Kirby.
ECT telephone service power.
Okay.
It's under electrical equipment if you don't have it loaded.
Electrical equipment.
It's under electrical equipment.
Okay.
Pretty sure it's got to be in your.
Sure, caught in 2011.
Yeah.
Probably in. Did you look at the data one?
Yeah. Okay. 1 second. Maybe in the data. I wasn't in the data equipment. Data phone service post. That's it here. So it's telephone service post. That's the one that we were doing. Okay. Loading existing. Yeah. So now. Okay, where are we here? Component was data, right? Devices, communication. Was it COM? Okay, not the COM. On the telephone, thank you. And that's the other thing is, okay, there you go. So if I'm going to put that one right here and skip. And so that's kind of the post that we tried to put on with that.
Okay.
So you guys want it physically smaller?
Yeah.
It's like a physically
Yeah,
smaller.
yeah, they wanted to, we were able to, yes.
So I'll open up the family.
Have you guys gotten into here, the edit family button?
Yeah. Messed around with this a bit. So I kind of shrunk mine, kind of click on there, we can shrink things down. Yeah.
In the past, we focused on just doing the electrical one, adding a component, changing the parameters, but we really did not mess with the physical dimension of the fixture. So that's kind of.
So if I'm going to try and figure out, how this family was built and how it's being driven, I would go into plan view here, and in plan view, I want to go into visibly graphics and annotation categories and make sure that all of my dimensions and reference lines are turned on. So if there's any dimension strings, I would see those. I don't see any here. I'll also look in elevation. I'll go to front, Here's some dimensions. And look on the right at, it's good to have standards as far as, like, for example, in Mashad Cooley, we kind of have a rule when we're building families to, if any dimension can be in plan view, in other words, your X and your Y, your left and right and back and forth dimensions, if any dimensions can be in plan view, they should be in plan view. Any sort of vertical dimensions, if they can be in front view, then they can be in front view. Then they should be in front view. Otherwise, person that comes in to edit or tweak the family, they don't know whether to go to the left view or the right view to find these dimensions. If I go to the right view, I'm not going to see those dimensions. And so I don't really know what's going on. But if I go to front view, then you can see the dimensions. So it's good to have a practice to know, okay, these are the views that the dimensions are going to be in. They can be in plan, they should be in plan, otherwise put them in front view. So it looks like the height of the thing is just a static 3 feet. It's always going to be 3 feet. The pad thickness is being driven by a parameter. We still haven't figured out how the width of the pad and the length of the pad and the dimensions of this thing are being driven. So this is a pole. Is that what this is?
Yeah, it's a lot like this right here.
Oh, okay.
Well, you can't make it too small, but you have to, still be able to see it. So I mean, if you put in whatever this is, 3 inch by 3 inch, it's not going to be very big. So.
Well, I would probably model it in the physical model, the 3D model. I would probably model it 3 inch by 3 inch, so it is the actual physical size. Because this is Revit, this is BIM. You kind of want things to be represented real life. But then it might, if it's a situation, then in plan view, I'll maybe create an annotation symbol, have a nested annotation symbol, so that in plan view you don't see the physical object, you just see the nested annotation symbol. But anyways, how do we fix this? This is an extrusion. I'll select the extrusion and edit extrusion. Choose edit extrusion.
The height of that, the base was 3.5 feet.
So it looks like this extrusion was built without any dimensions driving it. So it's basically just kind of freehand sketched, if you will. So we can't drive the dimensions of this thing from within the family. So I would probably start over. You can dimension, when you're dimensioning extrusions, you can dimension within the extrusion editor when the lines are magenta like this, or you can tie the geometry to reference planes. Generally, it's better to use reference planes because it's easier to figure out what's going on. So let's do that. We'll just leave that one there for now. I'm going to create another reference plane. So under the Home tab, and this is just this is general things you need to know to build basic families, and choose a reference line. And oops, I always get reference line and plane mixed up. We want a reference plane. Reference plane is sort of the bones of the structure. There should have been, yeah. So if you're creating a family, you basically need to create the bones. So here are the front, back, and the center. And here's the left and the right.
Kurt, you're not dimensioning anything, are you?
Not right.
Doesn't matter because you can adjust it, huh?
I'll create the dimensions later.
Gotcha.
Right now I'm just creating the bones of the family, and then we'll add sort of the muscles of the family, and the muscles of the family are sort of the parameters that are, or the dimensions that are associated to a parameter. Then I'll go to the Annotate tab and choose the Aligned command to dimension. And I'm going to dimension here, here, and here. And then I'm going to hit this equal button. And then this makes these always equal. So if I move one of these lines, they always stay equal. I want to have a center, I want to have a left, I want to have a right. And do the same thing in the vertical. I'm basically just going to kind of create a new family. We'll just leave this other one here for now. Then to create the pad, let's create the pad. Well, actually, let's constrain this. The dimension command, and now we can set the width of the pad and the sort of the depth of the pad, or however you want to call it. So the dimension is there, but it's just a dimension. It's not driving anything yet. If I wanted to lock this dimension in, I could hit the lock button, and it would always be 1'9". If I want to have this dimension driven by a parameter, I'll select that dimension string, and then up here, choose. Oh, there's a pad length. There we go. So it's a pad length and width. So
those parameters are going to be, you're going to be able to type that in, right? When you load the family, you'll be able to change those on the fly as you go.
yeah,
In Revit without editing the family.
right. Yep. So these parameters. So what Nick just said is, yeah, these parameters are in the family. You'll see these. You can control these values from within the project. If you don't have a parameter in the family driving the dimension, then it can't be controlled within the project. So it looks like there are some parameters set in here already. I'll just associate these to those parameters. Pad width, pad length. And then we need to create the extrusion for the pad. To create extrusion, go to the Home tab and choose Extrusion. And I know it's going to be a rectangle, so I'm going to, for the line, I can use just a normal line, but I'm going to use a rectangle. And then I'll just draw a rectangle. Hit the check box, and I've just extruded a box. Now I want to align the sides. I want to lock the sides of this extrusion to the bones. And that through the align command is good for that. So let's choose the align command. Choose where you want it to align to, and then lock it. Choose the align command again, and lock it. You always want to lock. If you don't lock it, then it's not going to be attached to the bones. We're like sort of attaching the flesh to the bones, if you will. So we've got the X and the Y. Now we need to set the Z. I'm just gonna. I won't save this over your other one. So we've got need the Z. We need the height. We do have pad thickness that is constrained. That's good. So we need to lock it in. Use the align command again. Here's the bottom. We want to lock the bottom and then lock the top. Align the lock. And it's good practice as you're working on a family to periodically flex it after you've built some geometry. This dimension is giving me a hard time. So I'll go to a 3D view and flex it. To flex it, you go into its family type dialog box and just tweak some of its values. So we'll change the pad thickness to 1 foot and hit apply and see if it works. It works. That's good. We'll change the pad length to 6 feet. That works. Change it back to 5/8. Now to create the pole part, we'll create the pole. By the way, you should name your reference planes. So I'm going to call this, the one on the right, I'm going to call it pad right. On the left, I'll call it pad left. Pad front. It's especially helpful to do this when you get into more complicated families. Otherwise, you just got a mess of reference planes. Pad back. We need some new reference planes now to control the power pole. I'm going to copy what I've already got. Select this one. Bring it down. When you select a reference plane, you can use temporary dimensions to move stuff around. So I've selected this reference plane. It's telling me it's 8 inches from the center. These things are what, about 3 inches? So I'll make it 1.5 from the center. And then I'll mirror it about that center. Use my dimension command. I want to have this, the front and the back equal off the center, so I'll use that equaling trick again. And then I'll dimension the front and back depth. 3 inches. We want that to be constrained to a parameter, so I'll select that 3-inch dimension, and we don't have a parameter, so we'll add one. So add parameter and call it pole width. I know I'm going super fast, but if you're just curious like how I would build a family from kind of start to finish, this is what I would do.
For recording you so we can slow you down.
Okay, so I'll just do the exact same thing now for the left right. And there might be a little trick we can do here if we select the front and the back and then choose the mirror command and then pick mirror it by drawing an axis. I'll draw the axis from the center and come out 45, and there it mirrored those two lines. Similar trick you can do in AutoCAD. And we'll dimension. Dimension to get the left and the right equal. There's already a dimension string that happened to get mirrored over. There's that 3 inches dimension string. We need to constrain that to our pole width dimension parameter. I'm sorry. So select the dimension, constrain it to pole width. Now it's being driven by pole width. Let's do our extrusion. We're extruding just a rectangle to start with. You can align and lock the extrusion lines either while you're in the extrusion editor or after. I usually do it after, but it doesn't really matter. Align and lock the sides. And then align and lock the vertical dimensions. So it looks like somebody's already got the top set here. Use my align command and align the top to that, lock it, and then the bottom will align. So when I'm trying to align the bottom here, when I start my align command, pick that reference plane. Right now it's wanting to choose the pad bottom. I don't want that, so I'll hit tab once, and now you see it's highlighting the bottom of the pole. Like now I got the pole, and I'm able to move that up. Right now the height of the pole is just a static 3 feet. We want that to be constrained by a parameter. We want it to be driven by a parameter. So I'll select that 3-inch dimension string, go up to label, and let's see what we have here. We have a pad height, the pole height. We don't. So I'll add a parameter, create a parameter called pole height. And we'll go to 3D view to flex it again. Where's your thin lines? I always use shortcuts and stuff. I don't even know where half the buttons are anymore. Pole height is at 3 feet. If you change it to 5, hit apply. Looks like that's working. The pole width, change it to 6 inches, and that's working Good. Change it back. Put that at 5. That's the gist of how to create, I guess, a simple family.
So now if you drop that in one of your sheets,
Yep.
will it ask you to adjust it right away, or do you have to hit the visibility graphics and go in and change like the pole height or the pad width?
I'm gonna.
You want to make them like 9 feet so they can run up to the ceiling like in here.
Yeah, good question. Have you guys talked about instance parameters and type parameters? Okay, I'm gonna load this. I just started a new project. I'm gonna load this into this project. We'll see how this family functions. So I've loaded that family into this project. I don't know, when you're in a family, you can just hit the load into project button, and you can choose which project to push it into. So that's what I did. We pushed it into the project 1. And in project 1, this is what we have.
So it'll come in with its default family size and shape, things like that. So you can change the parameters in the family. That's what it'll come in as.
Through the property, not right?
Yes.
You write the properties.
Correct. Yeah.
So here's where instance and type parameters come in handy. So yeah, like Nick said, it came in with the parameter values that we had set in the family. So this pad is the dimensions of the pad, etc. That was set in the family. If you want to tweak that in the project environment, we need to get at those parameters. So when I select this family, here are a bunch of parameters in this family. A parameter is just a cell of information that Revit uses for a variety of things. But I don't see those dimension parameters. It's because there are 2 kinds of parameters. There's instance parameters and type parameters. Type parameters, their values are global for every instance of that family type. So what I have selected here is, this is the name of the family up here in gray, DCT telephone service post, that's the name of the family. Every family has to have at least one family type. It's like a Honda Civic has to be either an EX, an LS, or LX, whatever. Every family has to be at least one family type. So here we have the family name, and below it, the family type name is called DCT telephone. It happens to be the same. If it's a type parameter, the value of that parameter is going to be the same for every instance or every placement. Here we have one. I've selected one instance, one placement. Every instance of that family type is going to have the same parameter value. So to access those type parameters, select the family, hit Edit Type, and here they are. These are type parameters. These values are going to be the global for every instance of that family. So if I want to change the pad width to 5 feet, I'll hit OK. It's changed to 5 feet, and now every placement, every time I use this family,
In this project.
in this project, it's going to be 5 feet. And
If I do in a different project, it will be the default.
if you do a different project, it would still be the same for, what we're doing is this per project. So in this project, the pad width for family type, DCT, etc. If I change the pad width from 5 feet to 4, it's going to be global for every placement of that.
Duplicates a lot.
But there might be situations where the height of that pole, I might want this one to have a pole height of 5 feet, and I might want this other one to be a pole height of 4 feet. But I might want the family type to be the same. So like you have black Honda Civics and you have red Honda Civics. There are some, those would be type parameters, the color, but maybe there might be some other things that you'd want to be instance parameters, like whether or not you have a drink in the cup holder. That would be an instance parameter. So in this case, we would want this one to, to be 5 feet tall and the other one to be 4 feet tall. If we edit the type parameters and make the pole height 3 feet, all of them are going to be 3 feet. That's where instance parameters come into play. To make a parameter an instance parameter, you have to do that in the family editor. So back in the family, we'll go to our parameters, and the pole height is at 5 feet. I'm going to hit the modify button, and this is where I can make it be an instance or a type parameter. I'm going to change this to an instance parameter. Now, and by the way, you know it's an instance parameter because it says default. I don't know why it says that, but that's just how you know. I know that pad width is a type parameter because it does not say default next to it. I know that this is instant because it says default. Now pole height is an instance parameter, and I can drive it. I'm going to reload this into the project, and I can set those values to be independent for each placement. Here is an instance or a placement, and here's that pole height parameter. So this, your properties palette here, this always shows you instance parameters. You hit the little edit type button, and this shows your type parameters. Type parameters, their values are global for every instance of that family type. So here, let's change the pole height to 6 feet for this one. This one changes to 6, but the other ones don't. So there's lots of obviously. So when you're creating a family, you need to think how you want the family to function, and then that'll determine, whether something should be an instance parameter or a type parameter.
Kurt, as long as you were there, go back to edit type, and how do you use the duplicate? We use a lot of duplicate. Like if we have a fixture like this, 2 lamps, 3 lamps, we do duplicate. Are we using it the right way? Electrically, if we have a 3-lamp troffer like this, we'll have the same family type. If we have 2 lamps, we'll duplicate that one, give it another like A1, A2, and is there a better way of doing that?
Yeah. So think about how is it being scheduled? Like you want all your A1. Are you talking about lights?
Lights. So if I have the same fixture, 2 lamps or 3 lamps. If it's 2 lamps, we call it A1. If it's 3 lamps, say we call it A, still the same, 2. The way we did it in the program is we just grab the same family, edit type, and we give it a new name, and we start dropping the 2 types that we edited. So duplicate it.
Yeah, so all of your A1s should be one family type, and your A2s should be another family type, because, but the one thing, all those, the length and the width, the tag value, the manufacturer, those should all be type parameters, because you want all of your A1s to have all that information be the same.
Yeah.
But like the circuit, if you've done circuiting, and actually the out-of-the-box circuiting is an instance parameter, because obviously they need to have individual circuit numbers.
Okay.
But like in this case,
Chad, when you say duplicate, you go into edit.
Yeah, you go edit.
Type and
yeah.
Allow me to duplicate it.
Yes.
Edit type, duplicate it, give it a different name, and then we're looking at the same physical parameters, I guess, and then we can change the voltage.
Yeah.
And then this is instead of becoming 100-volt amp, if you have 1 lamp and it say it becomes 50-volt amp, and then becomes the same fixture but different electrical parameters, if that makes sense.
yeah. And you could, instead of making that an instance parameter, the pole height, you could make different types of that and just say this is the 5-foot type, this is the 6-foot type, this is the 7-foot type, instead of making it instant parameter.
Yep. Yeah, it really just kind of depends on how you want it to function. So like right now, the pad width and length are type parameters. I'm not saying that you'd want to do this, but if we're following that, so this should actually, maybe you'd want to call this, we'll rename this family type. And by the way, you can edit these things you can create new family types and edit family types right through the properties dialog box. You can also do it down in your project browser in your families area. And this is actually maybe just a little bit more intuitive to follow. So if I want to rename this family type, I'll just select the family type, hit rename, and I'll call it, 6x5 pad. And if I want to create a new one, I'll do duplicate and call it 4x4, 4x3 pad.
I see.
And then we'll go in. Now I'll double click. So we can do this through here, or you can do it
Yeah.
through here, but it's a little bit clearer, I think, more intuitive to do it over here in the project browser. So I'll double click 4x3, and when you double click the family type name in the project browser, it automatically brings you right into its type parameters. Here it just brings you right into its type parameters. So let's get it to be 4x3 pad length, pad width, and then get this one to be 6x5.
Does it make sense, guys? A
This
little
is
bit more involved.
I'm going, yeah, super fast. So I don't know. What else do you want to talk about?
I do have two things for you. Anybody before you guys have anything in mind?
Can we maybe touch on that annotation symbol? Show it in plan view differently than you would in 3D. I think that was one of the questions.
Yeah, good idea.
And we do that all the time. I mean, the way it's actually modeled, it's not going to look right on the plan. We want a symbol that's big enough to see it and we can schedule it.
Yeah. So first of all, it's probably the case that, well, let's say it's the case that we don't even want to see the pad. We don't want to see the pad or the pole. To do that, we need to set it so they don't show up. So I've selected the pad geometry, and then right over here, there's an edit button next to Visibility Graphics. I hit that. Display in 3D views, and so this is always going to display in a 3D view, but I don't want it to display in plan or reflected ceiling. I can also set whether I would want things to show up based on detail level. You can define that here. So we don't want this to show up in plan view. We don't want the pole to show up in plan either. So uncheck. So again, that's the edit button right next to Visibility Graphics. You can also, just as a little side note, if I don't want this to show up at all, let's say I'm just messing around, I don't want this to show up at all, I'll just uncheck visible, and now this geometry won't show up at all ever in the project. Or if you're getting fancy, you can have the visibility of this geometry driven by a parameter value. If I hit this little button right here, I can tie it to a yes/no parameter. I'll create one. I'll call it show pole. It's a yes/no parameter. And sorry, I'm getting a little bit off track, and then within the family, we can talk about this stuff later just to show you guys gosh. If I just link that to a yes/no parameter, if this parameter is checked on, that pole is going to show up. If it's not checked on, that pole is not going to show up. But that's just a side note. So these are set now to not be visible in plan view. Now we need to bring in an annotation symbol. Let's create a very quick annotation symbol. Create a new family. Annotation families are different than other families, so you have to go to the annotations family template, and we're just going to do generic annotation. In an annotative family, basically, it just automatically scales up. So an annotation family, when you're drawing it as you want to see it printed on the paper. So I want this annotation family to be always, 3/32 of an inch by 3/32 of an inch, no matter what the scale is.
So that's what we call the symbol, basically.
Yep.
The symbol.
So I'll just create a very simple annotation family, and I don't know what you would do. A P in there? Okay.
So you make it so you just won't see the pole, you're just making it so that you would just see the tag of where.
Symbol.
The symbol. Yep.
Versus seeing the 3D image.
So
one, if you go and try and drop the pole in plan view, it'll drop that symbol instead of the actual.
Yep, that's right. When you throw it in 3D, you'll actually see.
But you can still edit all the parameters, like the height, the pad width. So you drop that, shows up that P, where you go over to the palette, you can change all the parameters, the instant parameters.
Yeah, and unfortunately in plan view, you would have no idea, you wouldn't be able to see the thing. You'd have to go into 3D view to make sure that it looks good. So I've just created a quick annotation family. And I'll load this family into that family, DCT. So I've loaded it in, and in the project browser of this family, here it is. It's just called Family 2. That's fine. Now I'll just drag it into our model space and place it. And we need to align this to be in the right spot. I'll use the align command again, and I'll align it vertically. Lock it, align it horizontally, lock it, and reload it into the project. By the way, whenever you see this dialog box, when you're bringing in a family or reloading a family, there's two choices: overwrite the existing version or overwrite the existing version and its parameter values. If I just choose the top, if I choose the bottom, it's gonna change anything that I've changed in the family, but it's also going to change the values of any parameters that I have. So like we've changed the, if we have a family type in here called X and its length is 5 feet, and then we reload that family, and in the family editor, X, for type X, the width may be defined as 6 feet. If I choose the bottom option, it's going to overwrite that value in my project with how it was valued in the family. So just an FYI, does that make sense? I'm just going to choose the top one, overwrite the existing version, because I don't want to overwrite any parameter values that I've changed in the project. It's gone in plan view, but it's still there in 3D.
If you click on that symbol, go into plan view and click on the symbol, do you get the ghosting of the actual stuff?
Not right now.
Okay, well you can make that happen. Maybe we don't go into maybe that's detail.
Yeah, not today maybe.
So that's kind of the basics, I guess. Families. It's
One more thing, if I wanna, do you guys
Basics, yeah.
any question guys about that?
And you can also build families a little more down and dirty, right, Kurt? I mean, this is probably the right way to do it.
Yeah, like down and dirty is, I made reference planes and I constrained them and I made everything is locked and everything. You can just, you can create a family by just creating extrusion and you're done. The family's done, but obviously you can't edit the length, width, or anything in the project. It's just basically a dumb box. But if you want to make it parametric, if you want to make it to be editable, then you need to do this. And so this is how I learned that if you wanted to do anything cool, you'll need to use reference planes and you'll need to constrain your dimensions to parameters. And then knowing the difference between instance parameters and type parameters is super important too. Obviously, depends on what you want to do with it.
How long have you been doing Revit?
I first learned it in the fall of 2007, and I worked on the first project in 2008. Yeah.
So it takes a considerable amount of time to hone your skills to the point where you're at.
Yeah, and I've been fortunate to like at Mashag Cooley for most of the past year. I've been pretty much overhead. I've pretty much just been focusing on building families and customizing a project template. I haven't actually done a lot of project work, so.
I'm taking advice from guys like me, saying, I really want this thing to do this. Can you do that? I'm kind of like the idea guy, and Kurt kind of gets into the details.
But as far as, but those are kind of the basic some ground rules for family making. But then also another great skill to know is to know how to kind of tweak your project template, because that's really where you're going to save a lot of time and pain by setting up view templates, so that anytime you're in a power plan view, you're not going to have to worry about ductwork showing up because you set it up in your view template to always shut off ductwork. stuff like that.
Kurt, anybody has any question for Kurt, guys?
How hard is it, do you wanna edit in the families if you wanna make a lighting and a mechanical schedule? I mean,
I'm sorry, what was
if
that?
you're gonna make a schedule, like a mechanical schedule.
Yep.
You wanna edit the families to be able to make it so that you can print that out with all the different details you want.
Yeah, so for something to be schedulable, a parameter to show up in a schedule, it has to be, for the most part, a shared parameter. Have we talked about shared parameters at all? So like these parameters that we've been creating on the fly in this family, we can't schedule those parameters because they're not shared parameters. Shared parameters is like a shared parameter file is a master.txt file. So I'll just 2 minutes about shared parameters. Under the Manage tab, shared parameters. This tells us what shared parameter file we are associated to. Right now, we're not associated to one. So I'll just create one really quick, and I'll save it just to your desktop. So at Mashab Kuli, we have a shared parameter file with probably 500 parameters in there because without those, we can't schedule things.
How do you guys currently schedule light fixtures? Is it done in Excel or something?
Yeah, we're just copying it from, yeah.
Well, we did.
Yeah, we're just typing it up, we're actually not doing, that's what I was wondering about, because I could get it to do the light fixtures, I could make a mechanical one, but I couldn't really make a light fixture schedule last time, because I couldn't, what they were tied to was difficult to be able to get them to do the thing.
Yeah.
What we're doing right now is we basically take visual schedule, take it to CAD, and from CAD into Revit. So
Okay.
we're really kind of tricking them. We're not taking advantage of the parameters.
Got it. So I am just really quickly creating a shared parameter file. I'm creating it now. I'm going to create a shared parameter, create one called length, and I'm add a parameter here called length, and it's going to be of length, and another one called width, and it's going to be, it's a common parameter and it's a length parameter. There's lots of different kinds of parameters. So our shared parameter file has 2 parameters in it now, and now if I'm in the family editor, I need to use those parameters. So let's say when in pad length, we want to make that to be a shared parameter. I'm going to choose the parameter name, hit modify, and I want it to be a shared parameter. So right here it says family parameter cannot appear in schedules or tags. Shared parameter can be shared by multiple projects and families, exported, blah, 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 and appear in schedules and tags. We want a shared parameter. I'm going to bring in the length, which I spelled wrong. And it's actually we're just overriding pad length. We're replacing pad length to be length. Now pad length can be scheduled as length. I'll insert this into our project. And let's create an electrical equipment schedule. It's under the View tab, under Schedules. Schedules. There's different kinds of schedules. We're going to create a schedule that only schedules electrical equipment. So use that. Electrical equipment, hit OK. And then here's how we build the schedule. Here's all the parameters in the project that are available for scheduling. There are some native parameters that are available for scheduling that you can use out of the box. We want to find that length parameter that we've just added. There it is. Double click it. Here is a list of things that are being scheduled. You can also schedule the actual family name, family, and type. We'll do family, and then we'll also find the other parameter called type. To reorder, we'll select that one and move it up. We want it to be family, and then type, and then the length. And there you can do some sorting. Let's have it sort by family name. And if we want to spell length correctly, we can do it right here.
Can you give it a total, like of the number of families printing all of family stuff, all of A fixtures, can you make it just an A fixture formula?
Yeah. So just real quick, here is a very basic schedule. Here are all of these families and their types. They're all 6x5s. If we want to change one of them to a 4x3, we can do it right here. Now we've actually changed the model so that this instance here is actually changed to a 4x3 now. And it's 5'8". We can change the dimension to actually be 3 feet.
That will change in the project as well, right?
Yep, so this thing actually in the project is 3 feet now.
The thing that I noticed that was interesting about the schedule, the changes.
The dynamic.
on the dynamic.
Yeah, for sure, it's all live, and when you add another one, it's gonna this thing's auto-populated and schedules. So it's just looking at all the stuff in the project and scheduling things for your direction.
Yeah.
Those are really cool.
Yeah, they call that bidirectionality. If you change it in the model, it'll change it in the schedule. Or if you change the schedule, it'll change it in the model.
The closest that we can get is to doing that one is the panel schedules. Exactly the same thing. The only thing we did not do, the only thing that we didn't schedule was panel schedules, which you can change them anywhere. So.
There's a mechanical, but I had to manually type in most of the stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of the stuff.
And if you type it manually, you might as well use SCAD. You know, unless you have a parameter, really, right? Unless you have a parameter, it just.
Yeah, and then, all these schedules obviously tie extremely close to your families, so you've got to go through and do a lot of family work to make these schedules happen, to get them to work, and it's a colossal amount of doing, so.
Once you've got an established system.
Yeah.
Per job to job.
Yeah, correct, that's when the profits start happening.
I'll just to tweak that schedule that we were in. So we just create a schedule that shows up over here in the schedules area. And if we want to just have it do something a little bit different, we can have, right now it's itemizing every instance. If we uncheck this box and then have this be, and then change it to, well, let's leave it like that. Now it's going to consolidate by family. So everything that is just going to consolidate everything by family name. They all have the same family name, so it just shows up as one row. To go back in here and change it to family and type, now it's going to consolidate them by type. And so this is exactly what you would do for your light fixtures, because you want all of your A1s to be consolidated, obviously, in one row.
Kurt, show them the totalizing. So you can add, where is it?
Yeah.
Something you can say there's this many. There you go, grand total.
So there's a grand total of 5 families. Or you can do other things. You can have it, we want them to, we want to be header to be a type. And so now it's listed all the 4x3s right here. So we've created sort of headings, subheadings. You can list all the 4x3s right here and all the 6x5s beneath that. And if we want to give a total for each. So here we have 1 4x3 and 4 6x5s.
So yeah, once you get your light fixture schedule kind of working with the families, this is really handy because you can literally just see, instead of counting how many fixtures you have, you can, like, watts per square foot or whatever, it's just there. You just can go to the schedule and see.
Yeah, so schedules are super valuable, not only just for to produce your contract document schedules, but you can also use them, like Nick said, for working schedules to like check your work, and to like Nick said, you can add up the total wattage per space. If you combine spaces with lights, there's a lot you can do.
And just to double check, all your poles are 8 feet tall. But you're not sure if there's like an instance parameter that's different or something. One's 6 foot, you don't know it. Instead of going and looking for each one of them, clicking on it, looking at that instance parameter, just create a schedule, and then add that column in there, so you can just look down. And if one's at 6, you can just quickly type 8 and move on. So they're pretty handy, just even to create on the fly as you're doing things, like double checks.
I noticed too, when you click on a particular one, it'll actually highlight that on the
Yep.
layout too, so that you'll know which one it is.
Well, we can, do you guys like this type of, shall we bring Kurt if we can steal him?
Yeah.
Like weekly? Would that be, just take a topic, and I think to make it more productive, maybe we just focus on one area instead of jumping to the schedule, otherwise it becomes so overwhelming.
Yeah.
So edit families, we just talked about edit families, another presentation we'll do about scheduling. Would that be good, guys, on Thursday? Can you, Kurt, can you commit yourself to us?
I'll have to ask my boss. But,
Ask your boss?
We'll have to do a little bit of that, and then you guys have every other Thursday.
Every other Thursday, yeah.
You guys have, the field trip, so it'd be every other Thursday.
Every other Thursday.
Okay. Yeah, we'll go back and talk. I can't imagine it's gonna be a problem, because I can't do what he's doing.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I mean, you spend so much time in it, and I think you guys all benefit from an expert talking.
Yeah.
You know, and we will fill in the electrical part. So, but before, if it doesn't take too much, I don't want to overwhelm it because they're working a lot of stuff too.
Yeah.
Two things that always bother me, I'm sure it's bothering you guys. Number one is, this family that we edited came as a telecommunication. If I want to flip it into lighting.
Yeah.
That's number one, is how do you flip it into lighting? And number two, if you can show them how to assign a tag. When you tag a fixture, how do you, like you want to tag it now and call it pole or something. These two, unless it takes too much time,
No.
we could do another time. I mean, assign a tag to it
Sure.
in the family.
So this family that we're in right now is this little button up here tells you what family category it is. It's an electrical equipment family category.
Okay.
So you asking like if we want this to be, say, a light fixture? Or,
Yes, I want to. Okay, just click on that one.
Yeah, now it's a totally different family category. When we load it in the project, it'll show up in the project browser as a light fixture, and it'll be all of its visibly graphics and stuff will
Thank
be
you. That's
driven by what we've defined in object styles for light fixtures.
Okay.
So yeah, Revit will think it's a light fixture now.
So just by clicking, okay. Wow.
Yep.
Okay.
Just right here. I'll leave it as electrical equipment for now. For a tag, let's create a really quick tag family.
So it's another family then.
Yep, and it's another kind of annotation family. So I'm creating a family under annotations. You see, here was the generic annotation. That's what we just created for that P. We want to create another one for tagging. That's a different kind of annotation family, generic tag. I'll go to Manage tab, Home tab, and Label. Label is smarter than just text. And we want to bring in a shared parameter. I know I'm going fast. We create a shared parameter, length. I'm going to bring it in, add it over to the right. So this is going to be populated by the value of our length parameter. Right now it's just giving us just kind of a default text there, which happens to be the name. So that is our tag.
Okay.
And we just load it into the project. Wait a minute. Need to make sure it's tagging the right thing. We want this tag to tag electrical equipment. So electrical equipment tag. That's important. Load it into the project. And tag command, which is under annotate, tag by category. And it's tagging the length of that.
Well, you can only do that with shared parameters. You can't do it with instance or types, right?
Right. If that length, that reason it's being tagged, reason we can tag it is because that is a shared parameter.
And we know how to edit tag. I mean, you guys are good with editing tag and adding to it. Okay, but creating a tag was the issue. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any question for Kurt, guys? Is that good? Can we do more of these focus things?
And
What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think, I feel like you guys have more Revit questions than you do electrical questions, so.
And if
Probably continue to focus on that.
yeah, if we dialed in on like how much time we would be devoting to this time, then I could maybe propose to you, say, okay, we're meeting a total of 5 hours, or let's spend half an hour talking about tags, another half hour.
Okay.
And maybe you and I can just talk about what are some different skills that you'd like to learn, and we can kind of come up with a little bit of an agenda of things to
But,
go
well,
through.
let me tell you what they do. You guys did Revit a little bit with Gary, but I don't think you went into editing. So we know we did a project. We know how to place things in ceilings and circuiting, all stuff. That's for the most part we know. We know how to use the defaults for the most part, right? Drop things out of the box and circuit and tag and all. That's we know how to do. The challenge is outside the box, creating a family, creating a tag, creating annotation. Maybe another presentation would be about the levels in the building. Where do you set these what do you call these elevation levels so you can see the things that you need to see, but not the things that you don't need to see? That has always been an issue for us.
Yeah.
Difference between the ceiling view and the floor view when you're dropping lights. Right now we drop our lights in the ceiling, we circuit them in the floor. That'll be it,
Yeah.
So that's the topics, and we'll show you. We'll pull one of the students' projects and we'll look at it, the lights and the power system, and just critique it from a Revit point of view and see how we could do it better.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So,
How many Thursdays do we have left? Is there 2 or?
at least 2 or 3.
This was the fourth.
Huh?
Yeah.
A scaling question.
Scaling question?
Yeah.
Still got
Um,
8 weeks left.
can I use your restroom real quick?
Yeah, please. Should we take a break, guys? Do you mind? If you take a quick break, yeah, go ahead. All the way out and all the way to the right. You'll see him. Thank you. Recorded him.